Hey beauties, welcome back to Real Girl Talk Podcast Radio. I am your host, Sherry Ricard. I'm a medical professional, business leader, author, speaker, and adversity recovery expert, bringing you fascinating guests, business, beauty, and lifestyle tips to help you create a beautiful life, and always committed to keeping it real. Now let's dive in. Hello beauties, and welcome back to Real Girl Talk. My guest today is our last guest for 2020. Our last episode will actually be December the 29th. We will end the year where I am going to show you how to create a beautiful life through vision for 2021. So you don't want to miss that episode. I promise you, you will set up for 2021 with that episode on December the 29th. But today, I am so thrilled to have this guest close out our guest spots for 2020. Melahni Ake is the CEO of Make Connections for Life, leadership consulting and coaching. She is an author, founder of Everyday Leaders, and creator and host of Everyday Leaders 50 and 50 Leadership podcast. She's the president of Making Everyday Leaders 501c3 and currently on the board of directors for the David Douglas Leadership Forum in Ghana, developing youth for a brighter tomorrow. Melahni is also a certified leadership speaker, coach, and trainer with the John Maxwell Team and is a certified associate with the Y Institute. I am telling you, her passion to help others discover and develop their beliefs and celebrate their own story is incredible. Hello, Melahni. Thank you so much. It's so good to see you again.
Oh, it's been way too long. I just feel like I want to reach out and touch you, but I can't because of COVID.
I know. I know. And I'm going to tell everybody that's tuning in, for those that don't know Melahni and I's connection, we actually met in corporate America. So we actually met there. We met there and we worked with the same company. We were in different departments or divisions rather, but Melahni was always just a big source of inspiration for me because she just, no matter what anyone said or did, she stayed on her path. And that's what I love about you. You were so confident in what you were saying that we listened, so I guess that's just a way of being able to say that you're a really good influencer. I mean, when you're able to speak to someone and influence them and whatever you're speaking about, it just makes you a good influencer and a good leader. And you've always been a really good leader. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you jumping on. I've been trying to get you on for a while with both of our schedules. So I'm glad that you're able to jump on today.
I appreciate that. It's funny because when we met, I had left a really comfortable job. One of those that if you've ever had a job where you say, should I really leave this? And because I had been for almost 10 years and had done everything great and I had no reason to leave. The salary was good. I had a car. I had, everything provided for, and I loved my customers and I loved what I did, but I saw an opportunity to grow. And that was the only reason that I left, because I felt there was something inside of me that I wasn't really stepping into. I wasn't being fulfilled. Right. And so just from a professional standpoint, I went to this organization to try to create something that was going to be really phenomenal. Right. So I could see the vision, right? You could see the vision of the leaders. And as after that kind of started, I mean, it's really scary when you step into something and, the little man on your shoulder, as well as all of the people at that old organization said, just wait. They won't keep you. They'll get rid of you. You shouldn't leave. You're comfortable. You can retire from here. But I thought, but I need to do this for me. Yeah. Right. And so that's what really drove me. And then we know the rest of the story.
So part of the story is, here you're on this path and you are in corporate America and you're doing really well and you're getting paid and all the great perks of it. And I know somebody's thinking, gosh, what's her problem? Suck it up, sister, But the thing is, I think that we do get comfortable sometimes in where we are, and we're so afraid to take a step out, even though and I truly believe in those intuitive gifts. I think that as women, we're very intuitive creatures. And I think that, we're run on emotions sometimes, but I believe that if we'll just get quiet for a minute, we can sometimes hear that little still voice that says, you should do this, you should do this. And then we won't do it because the actual thought of it terrifies us. We don't want to walk away from that job that pays us so well because it feeds our kids. It pays the house note, and, you may be given a car allowance. In our world, it's either a car or a car allowance. And, I've always drove really nice cars because I had really good car allowances, and people go, gosh, Sherry must make a really good money. She's driving a Cadillac and a Mercedes and a BMW. No, I had a great car allowance that paid for it, And so we have all of these things, but sometimes we still want more. And then we start feeling like, well, am I being selfish? Is that greedy for me because I'm still not content? And then you start doing all this, like we were talking about before we started recording, these borrowed beliefs. And we start believing all of that stuff, that those criticisms that we tell ourselves and all that negative. And I don't want to step out of my comfort zone. I'm really comfortable here. And then we don't do it. And then years go by and years go by and years go by. And we always have that, what if I had have just left? Because now we may see someone doing our dream. We say, man, if I'd have left 10 years ago, I would be doing that right there because that's what I've always wanted to do. I want you to take us a little bit on, because I know you have a strategic coach, you talk to people in corporate America, you still have a lot of work in that environment. I want you to, and you studied under the John Maxwell, which is huge in itself. And I shared with you my ignorance about John Maxwell. And now it's like, I feel like I need to call him and apologize. What's his number, Melanie? I tell him I'm sorry. But the first time I ever heard John Maxwell, I told you, was out of your mouth. And I remember thinking, okay, who's this John Maxwell guy and why is she training under him? And then I go to GrowthCon with Grant Cardone. It's got, 40,000 people in Miami. And I go to this conference, which is a whole nother story because I literally stepped out of my comfort zone and did that by myself. And John Maxwell's on the stage. And I'm like, that's that guy. That's the guy that Melanie was talking about. So there's the story. There's my ignorance on John Maxwell. For those of you who are going, Sherry's been living under a rock somewhere, but he is very inspirational. So I want you to take us on a little bit of journey on what you do and what you've learned under his studies and how you've incorporated that into what you do today.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, thank you for that, because John Maxwell is the number one leadership coach as far as influencers in the world. And he has been doing this for over 40, 50 years. He is 74 years old now. So for him, his journey began as a minister. He followed his father's footsteps, and he was influenced and challenged all the time by his family. So having a really secure foundation first, right, is really important. So when you go back and you kind of tell your story, as he developed his training, his coaching, his books, he was writing really for people of faith, right? That's where he started.
Right.
And then when he recognized, his marketing group said, hey, more people in business are buying your books. And so what he realized is, man, I need to kind of just change this up. I need to start writing more books just of common language. And so that's what he did. And when he started to pivot, that's when things started to open up. And he, eventually started this coaching, training, speaking program where you can learn under him and be mentored by him. Yeah. And what an amazing process, because so many people, like you said, as we discover the things about ourselves through our lives, we go, okay, we're stuck. We don't feel fulfilled. We need a little bit of growth, and we don't know what that looks like. And it's scary. So for me, I think about going back and working at the bank, getting through college, and I'd watch these people come in and cash their checks and think, man, they've got it all together. Look at the cars that they drive, right? I know how much money is in their account. Right. How are they getting it done? I want that kind of a life. I want to be in medical sales. I want to be this. And so you kind of dream, like, if I left the bank, what am I going to do?
Right.
So I got into medical. and just started doing the things that I thought I was connected to.
Yeah.
Right, and through that journey, it led me to, a medical device world for several years and understanding that my gifts were really developing relationships. And I'll tell you another thing that I've recently learned about myself. Just got certified through the Why Institute. And so
Mm.
that's really, Simon Sinek, and it's a huge why. Start with why, find your why,
Yeah.
infinite game, together is better, leaders eat last. All his books talk about the strategy of, and his first conversation and TED Talk, the most viewed TED Talk, is about Apple computers and why they do what they do. And so
Mm.
this program really teaches you about your core beliefs, right? So we all know what we want to do in the world,
Right.
but we don't know maybe why we're motivated by that. And so discovering that, plus with the John Maxwell, really faith based beliefs, and he encourages us go back and tell your story,
Oh, yeah.
understand why you are who you are, and that really helps you be consistent in your life.
You're
And
right.
so when I say that, when I had to leave that corporate 10-year job and said, man, should I go take this medical device challenge and be a specialist and really meet all of you that I didn't know? That was a little fearful. Like, how am I going to
Right.
show up? I've always been accepted. People know how I am. I'm
Right.
100% girl, right?
Right.
But when you go to a different environment, there's a lot of fear and panic that you can have and that you can feel, and that those symptoms are real. Like we know from a clinical perspective, when
Right.
your heart races and that blood pressure and all of that can really have an effect on your health. So you have
Mhm.
to be following authentically what's going to drive you on your core beliefs. So when you step into those, like you said, and I really appreciate that, because being consistent helps you be confident, and that way you
Yeah.
show up. And so all the workplace bullies, we have so many workplace bullies that they get jealous when we step into our own skin and we're confident, and that's how we show up.
You're right.
Man, those people with insecurities and that want to bully you, they're going to show up too.
I think in society today, we're always talking about, well, this man and, how great he is because he's very controlling and, he can do this and he can do that. And he's very successful and all this. And I have found, and this is just my experience, I have been in corporate America for 15 years. I've been in the healthcare industry for over 25. I will never give up my nursing license because I say I worked way too hard for it. My babies were 3 and 1 when I went through nursing school. So I don't even want to hear about these young girls telling me how hard it is that live at mama's house still. But the
Mhm.
one thing that I have learned in corporate America is the men were not the challenge for me. I don't ever feel like any of my directors or VPs, I don't feel they personally tried to hold me down. I'm not saying that other men weren't promoted above me because they were, but my direct supervisors always wanted the best for me because I think they knew who I was at a core and they wanted the best for me. But I will tell you, it wasn't the men that were issues, it was the women.
Mhm.
Because anytime that we step up in confidence and and we feel like we have self-esteem and we're assured of who we are. And I always say that, we're only as valuable as we think we are and we say we are.
Mhm.
And so when we say we're valuable and we show that we're valuable, women that may feel inferior or don't have their self-worth in check tend to take that as a directive on them, and they don't understand it's okay to let other women shine. It doesn't dull your shine to have
Mhm.
other women shine, but there are so many women in the workplace that feel that they have to dull yours in order for them to shine, and it actually does the
Ugh.
exact opposite for them. So yeah, corporate America is can be a scary place.
It can. And the thing is, if you just start with your core belief and you say, so my why is contribute. There's
Mhm.
9 whys. And when I realized, yes, that's how I show up. I'm a contributor because I want to show up and add value. And that is one of the beliefs that if you have that in you, you're going to find a creative way. You're not going to be afraid. You're going to step into who you are, and you're going to
Mm,
say, okay, here's a problem, and I'm going to solve this problem by getting creative. And how I do that is I bring people in that I trust that can help me add value to people. And so that's really, what I learned kind of showing up in this new medical device industry was who are the people that I can trust, that I can
Right.
learn from, that I can really add value to the organization, and then I can become a credible expert, right? And
Mm,
so but that was natural for me. It wasn't like I
right.
came in with an agenda because, well, this is what I want and this is what you'll give me. I
Right.
was really humble in because that's who I am. I
Right.
wanted to learn and I wanted to do a great job. And so Sherry, the big kicker was when they told me that I had no value and they got rid
Mm,
of me and eliminated me. The one person, right? It wasn't a bunch of people at once as like a
right.
cattle run through because of shareholders. It
Right.
was really, it felt very vindictive.
Mm,
And I was shocked. And but for about a minute, I believed it.
right. Well, of course you did, because it's the shock.
Yeah, it was a shock. I'd never, ever in my life experienced something like that. And to think back of what I had given up 5 years before that, and
Mm,
I thought, here we go. They were right. This is what happened. But you know what I did? I stepped into my value and I thought, I've had my podcast for 4 years now, or for 4 months, sorry, for 4 months. And I
right.
was really talking about leadership values. And I had a theme and I had something that I wanted to do to add value to people. So for me, I was like, just be consistent, just continue your journey. It's okay. It's learning, but this doesn't stop you. This really
Right.
adds to you. Now, I always thought, what's that pain point that you have that now your life changes? I
Right.
think that was probably the time, if I really think about it, that was the aha moment because, you get 2 weeks severance and then maybe they give you a severance pay, but you get your kind of 2 weeks notice the very last day that I was getting paid, right? So I was like, this is my last paycheck. And I had those symptoms. I had those physical symptoms that we talk about. The
Mm,
stress. I cleaned out, I had thrown out, I had burned everything that I didn't want in my life anymore. And I had physical symptoms. My blood pressure was 87 over 50.
wow.
And I said to my husband, take my blood pressure again. Right. So we took it 5 times. And I said, we need to go to the ER because I don't know what's happening. I'm 50. Maybe I'm having a heart attack, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
that stress is real. So we went over to the hospital and they checked me in and I would not let them release me for 2 days because they couldn't find anything. But I
You're
kept
going to
saying,
find something
"Well,
wrong with me.
yes, you don't understand. The pressure's on my chest. It's real. I feel
Right.
it." And
Right.
I've had friends that have been 50 and just passed out, right? And died.
Right.
I don't want to be one of those statistics because of this job stress. And
Right.
so it really happened. It really happened. And it was such a physical stress, like a panic attack. I've never had anxiety or had a situation like that, but it was real and it was really scary. And I had to get a hold of myself and say, as I was showing up to give 1,000%.
Right.
And I'd forgotten about the rest of my life and really saying, just develop yourself, develop your strengths, show up how you are, and then you'll find your path. And that's what happened.
Mm. Once you got out of the hospital and you and you woke up the next day and said, yeah, I really did get fired. I was told that I wasn't valued. How did you find it? So how did you go, I know my why, I know what my talents are, because a lot of people are multi-talented, right? We have multi-passionate is what I call it, because even though I have to find out now what these 9 whys are, because when you said contributor, I'm like, okay, that must be one of my whys. Can you have more than one? But, I talk about, I'm a beauty junkie and I love to try all of these things. And, I'll be in the middle of talking about something. I don't know. I've had a conversation with a small group of women and I'm talking about something really inspirational and, empowered, and the meeting will be over and someone will walk up to me and I think they're going to ask me something really just about everything that I talked about. And it would be, what kind of foundation do you use? And I'm like, really? Can we go just a little deeper than that? But you know what? I believe that we all have our multi passions, and I am multi passionate, I guess I would say. But the why brings you down from, I guess, if I've been envisioning a tree and all of these limbs of passions that we have, and I should say interest and passions and things that light us up, it all comes down to that trunk of that tree. And that is where your core is, right in the roots. That's your core and your why that keeps you striving for more and wanting to grow in where you are. So when did you take all of this and realize what your core trunk of that tree actually was? How did you get to the trunk of the tree?
What took me a while, right? Because I was still going, okay, I need a job, right? I need a job. I need to get paid.
Yeah.
And so I was reached out to by several companies, and I decided, okay, I just need to take something. And so I became a vice president of sales to help an organization build a startup. And it was a product that I was familiar with. And so I thought, I can do this.
Yeah.
Well, after a year, that company closed. And so, right, so then I was like, now what? But what happened is the manufacturer said, "Why don't you open up the company? Why don't you open up the distributorship?" So I thought, well, I'm equipped to do this. I know how to do this. I need to get investors, but I'll go ahead and try this.
Right.
So I did. I did. I tried it. And what happened is just a mess. Right? A mess happened. A mess happened because there weren't any trusting relationships. Of course,
Yeah.
everything was on me, but it was trying to figure it out in a space that I had never been. I wanted to contribute, right? That's my why. I showed up to
Right.
contribute, add value. But what I didn't look for was the bad partnership. And so it really taught me a lesson. And so through that, that was kind of July of 2019. And so I'll tell you something. So John Maxwell is my mentor. He is just, I just adore him. And he put out a Minute with Maxwell back in September of 2019. And he said, if you are looking for something, if you're struggling with something, if you want to learn something, if you've never studied the book of Proverbs, study it for 31 days.
All right.
So I thought, all right, I'll do that. And so October 1st of 2019, I said, I'm going to do this publicly. If anybody wants to join me, I'm going to go on this journey because I really need this. So, right. So sometimes we're motivated by things that are going to help us and it ends up helping others.
Yeah, definitely.
Sherry, I can't even tell you this journey. So we did this in October of 2019 and we continued. And every day, every morning at 7:30 Eastern, every morning since October 1st, 2019 till today, we still do this. Every single
Wow.
day we study the leadership Bible and we have kind of a leadership devotional for 30 minutes every single morning. And let me tell you what that has done. Consistency, right?
Yeah.
Consistency has brought so much clarity. It has allowed me to connect to things of areas that I can contribute in my faith. I can contribute in leadership. I can really develop that credibility with people,
Mm,
right? In my brand, everyday
right.
leaders. I'm doing something consistently every day to
Right.
really show my brand and who I am. And that is who I am. And so I
Exactly.
think, right, when I created the name of Everyday Leaders, I thought I want to celebrate people that are doing everyday things to help inspire their life, help them
Right.
develop their story, inspire their life. So again, what I've learned, I showed up to add value, to contribute. And now what's happened is people on meetup.com, people are joining. I've got an organization that I've connected to through Ghana, which is the David Douglas Leadership Foundation. And did you know this? That in Africa, in West Africa specifically, but there are 52% of the population is youth. And so what they're trying to do is encourage, develop, and really take to the next level, provide skill practice and skill management of all kinds of topics
Hmm.
for the youth. And so in Africa, they think the youth is between 15 and 30, right? And we think, gosh,
Right.
at 30, what were we doing? but they still, that, right? So
I was
that
still having
population is
babies.
still, I know. But what's so cool about this is we're doing it all through Zoom because, we've always used Zoom. I think
Right.
2013, we were training people all across the world in medical devices on Zoom. But, it's allowed us to be able to show up for others and contribute in bigger ways. And
Mm,
so now, as a part of this forum, it's faith-based. I got connected because I am a part of the John Maxwell team, and they saw that, and they saw my consistency in doing my Bible devotionals. And so that's pulled me into now helping. Every month we do some leadership training. And so each week we kind of rotate the topics, but we're teaching them leadership, finances, finding your purpose,
wow.
really developing community. And so to think we can touch the world in bigger ways when we just start something on our own,
Mhm.
just start an idea because we've been inspired by something. That's what's so
Wow.
encouraging. You have it right within you. You just got to step forward into it.
You're right. When we're talking about our why, and people say, well, I don't really know why. How do they find out what their why is? Because I think that when you're on that road of, and some people say there's no such thing as purpose. This is my belief. Okay. It's my show, so I can tell what I believe. That's what's so great because I don't have to worry about the media changing my narrative, right? It's my show. But I believe that everyone is born on purpose and for a purpose. Okay.
Hmm.
So I do believe in purpose. I believe in a purpose driven life. I do believe that we can be multi passionate. I do believe that we can be talented in a lot of different ways. But we always go back to that why in order to stay consistent and give us that inspiration and that being feeling empowered. I know what my why is. But I've actually had people come to me and say, I don't know how you just keep going. And I said, it's because I know why I'm doing it.
Right.
And if you're at your job today and you're listening to this and you say, I don't even know why I'm sitting in this chair working for this, jerk over here, because, well, if you don't know why you're sitting there, maybe you shouldn't be. Maybe you
Mhm.
shouldn't be, maybe you do have to step out in faith. There are people that say, I don't know why I turned down that marriage proposal. I don't know why I didn't take that job. I don't know why I'm in this job right now. I don't know why I never had kids, or I don't know why. You have to know your why. So how do we find that, Melanie?
It's just a process. I think you have to be honest with yourself first, right? You have to be honest with the things that you look around and you say, chapter 1, John Maxwell's 15 Laws of Growth. I'll just start with that. I've been
Yeah,
teaching that since I got certified. And his challenge, again, I love challenges.
me
But
too.
he said, right, like read this book and here's how I want you to read it through these chapters. And so I left in March of 2017 and I said, okay, I'm going to start this on Zoom again because Zoom was what we did. And I started these masterminds, which I had never figured out. Like, what's a mastermind?
Hmm.
Is that just kind of a book club? Well, it's
Right,
way more than that. And
right.
so what we did is we started taking each of these 15 chapters, and every week I have taught that. Again, consistency, right? Consistency. So every single week since March 2017, I have taught the values and the principles in this book, and I've applied them. And so, what I understand is chapter 1 is all about intentionality. Chapter 1 asks you to look at your life and say, what are your intentions for what you do every single day?
Mm,
And it gives you kind of the lessons to walk through. So it says, do you compare yourself to others? Right. And if you're comparing yourself to others, that's a real big thing that you need to think about
oh,
because
yeah,
to be able to be intentional with your life and understand your why and your purpose, you can't worry about that.
you're
You
right.
have to live in your own space and compete with yourself. Am I
Mm,
better every day for my life, for my community, for my family? But not because Susie across the street did something, so I'm going to go
right,
do it. That's, that can really tear on you and that can cause you physical pain, right? That
right.
can cause you the panic attacks and like, I'm not good enough. And that's just
Mm,
not true because God designed us on purpose. We were
right.
talking about this today on our Bible devotionals. We went into Luke and we were talking about how God has already purposed you and
Mm,
given you these gifts. And sometimes we just ignore them. We just ignore them because
right.
all of the influences in our life say, oh, but you should be doing this. You should go be a CPA. You should go be a doctor. You should go be a nurse. Nothing wrong
Mhm,
with that career, but your calling in your life is your purpose. And so it's
right.
really completely different. So some of these other things that he talks about in this chapter are making a mistake. Are we afraid to make a mistake? Are we
Mm,
afraid to learn? Do we not know how to learn? Some people just say, I just do what I do because that's the way the wind blows. It's okay, right?
right, right.
I'm provided for, I'm taken care of. I don't need to worry about myself.
Mm,
Well, until something changes. And
mm,
then you really have the lights blown out and you say, "Oh my gosh, I guess I should have been taking care of myself a long time ago."
right,
And there's a physical, there's self-care, but there's also this emotional and personal growth space. And
right,
so I had forgotten about that a long time. I had done things to grow and kind of learn in a career, but personal growth is so different. And it is so important because, what I learned about consistency, and I think about this phrase that everybody says, and it's so true when you apply it to your life, that if you take 24 hours in the day and you take that 1% of every day, so that's 24 minutes,
Mm.
and you decide to do something consistently with your life 1% of the time, every single day, so 24 minutes. If you do that consistently every day for 365 days, now you have impacted your life 37%
Wow.
improvement.
That
That's
is
huge.
huge. That is huge. And who said this? This is making me crazy because I just finished, and here's the book right here. I'll show it to you. I don't know if you've seen this. Dream It, Pin It, Live It
Ah, yes.
with Terry Saville Foy. Oh my gosh, I have to get her on my show. She was actually supposed to be on my show, and something happened in my schedule. I could just kick myself because I wasn't able to record with her that day, and I've never been able to connect with her again. And I had her agreed to that day. And so I know if it's meant to be, it'll happen. But I read in this book, and she said, if you want to, somebody had said, and she quoted them in her book, but they said, if you want to change your world and your circumstances that you live in, change your daily routine.
Amen.
That's what
Hmm.
I've done. And I'm telling you, since July, I have literally changed my routine to the point to where sometimes my husband, like, he can call me in the morning and he knows exactly where I am at that exact moment because that's my routine. I mean, I get up and it's my black leather recliner, but I call it my prayer chair. And so now he calls it my prayer chair. But I get up and I have my coffee in my prayer chair, and that's where I listen to the word of God, whether it be, one of my mentors or somebody that fills me up or I feel is anointed, and whatever it is, that's what I do. And then I also read. And I was never consistent on reading until I took a job that had me traveling for the last year every single week. That's
Hmm.
exhausting. But I was on at the New Orleans airport every Monday morning. I was flying in every Thursday late night. And then I thought, you know what, these plane rides can get really boring if you don't, I can only watch so much Netflix, right, on these flights. And so I started downloading really inspirational books on leadership, books on faith, books on you finding your why, and all of these things. And I've grown so much just changing my routine to the point to where I couldn't even tell you what's on our local radio station because I just don't even listen to it. I get in my car, I turn on podcast that inspire me, or if I see someone I want to listen to on their show, I listen to that on the way to the airport, on the way back. I did that when I'm on the plane. I can't do podcasts because of the Wi-Fi, but my audiobooks are downloaded. So I started
Hmm.
listening to my audiobooks, and I'm going to tell you that is so incredibly true about changing your daily routine. If you're doing the same thing every day and expecting a different result, what do they say? That's the definition of insanity, right?
Exactly.
Well, I stepped out of my insanity about a year ago and changed the way I do things every day. And of course, this show has just grown tremendously. We've in 2 years, I've quadrupled downloads and my listening audience, and God's not done with me. I have so much more to do, and I would have been on stages this year speaking had COVID not hit. But it wasn't, obviously it wasn't the time to do it, or that would have not been stopped, because I believe if you're in whatever you're anointed with, there is no weapon against you, right, can prosper. So that's really cool. So keep telling us. I want to hear a little bit more about, because I'm just getting fired up. I'm downloading this book, right? On audio. I'm
Oh my gosh.
downloading this book.
So
I have
me.
to hear
So
it.
the 15 laws of growth,
Yeah, yeah.
15
I'm
invaluable laws of growth. This thing is
downloading.
like so tattered, but I teach a class on this, and actually I just started it. It's on Sundays. I do it every Sunday night at 7 o'clock Eastern, but I offer to go through the 15 laws of growth every single week for a year because
Nice.
I know what it did for me. It changed me completely to say, if I'm applying these, my goodness, it's so simply written. And the
Mm,
application is just keeping people accountable to saying, what's your dream? How do you actually show up? And what are you trying to accomplish? And so you figure out your why, you figure out how you're going to add value. And through this, it really helps you define how you can change yourself so then everything in your life changes. It is
Wow.
unbelievable. It is unbelievable. So, yeah, so back to chapter 1, talking about these gaps, it talks about, comparison. So we talked about that. The knowledge gap, not knowing that you were supposed to grow, right?
Mm,
People in your life that are like that. Well, I just show up and I'm going to learn what I need to learn today, but they don't and take any initiative to
mm.
learn that. And the mistake gap, right? I'm afraid to try something new because I'll make a mistake. And so then the next question we know as salespeople, so then what happens? Right? So if you make it, so then what happens? Well, I look bad in front of my friends, coworkers, family, colleagues, whatever. So
Right,
then what happens? Right? Well, I could get fired or I could get in trouble or I could get yelled at. So then what happens? Right? Like,
right,
is it that big of a deal?
right.
But we think about it, right? When we start to say, if I do this, we think a million times, okay, well, if this person's going to say this and this person, my mom will tell me this and my kids will think about it like this. Who cares?
Right,
If it's within you, if God purposed you with this idea, do
right,
it. Step into that because he's going to give you the power and the resources that you don't even know are out there yet. You just got to step through that fear.
right.
And so that's really how I help people with that one because it's true, it's real, it's right in front of us. But you don't have to worry about it because
Mm,
kind of God got this, right? You just have
yeah.
to let go. You just have to let go of those fears. And the other one is the timing gap, right? Is it the right time? Is it the right time?
Mm,
And we question ourselves every day, right?
right,
Oh, I shouldn't really do that right now. I don't have enough money. I don't have the right resources. I don't know enough. Maybe it is. If it's on your heart, you should be doing it
right.
because you hold yourself back. And so I just, I love the book. There's so many other things that it
Mm.
teaches you about
I can't wait.
trade-offs.
I can't
Oh
wait.
my gosh, Sherry, trade-offs. Think about the thing, and I talk about this. Consistency is one of them. The
Mm,
mirror, the law of the mirror talks about how we show up is how we value ourselves. So now I
wow.
really want you to think about this one. How you value yourself. If you think, yes, I think highly of myself. I'm confident. I step into that room. But then I want you to think about when you go back to your families, if you could this year all together, if it wasn't COVID and you say, I want to go back to the house that I grew up in with your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, and your family.
Mhm.
No matter what you think you've accomplished in your life, you are going to show up as you were when you lived in that house. All of the fears, the anxieties, the just, where you fall in the family, if you're the oldest, the youngest, the middle, you are naturally going to fall back into that routine of who you were in that environment. It's
Wow.
just natural. And so what you have to understand is when we begin to see value in ourselves, that's the only way that we can add value to others.
Mhm.
So right, and so many times, we laugh and say people say when we get or at the holidays, right? Gosh, that's the most stressful time of the year. Well, a lot of it is because we don't know who we are. We're
Yeah.
showing up for everybody else. We're trying to put patches on things and band-aids in our life. Well, I just got to get through this weekend and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
What what if we could actually go back and be different and make that different and start new traditions with our families? Because we are actually saying, I really know who I am and I know how to bring value to others.
Mm.
What a different relationship that could be and impact really your family and your legacy for generations.
Yeah, you know what? We create this negative narrative. You've heard negative narrative and changing the narrative and all of this in the fake news and the media and all this stuff that we've been listening to all year. But the real negative narrative that's created is the one that we create within ourselves. And
Mhm.
if you think about it, if pretend this whole COVID and everything is ending and you're anticipating you're all this family, you're going to a family Christmas dinner, or they're all coming to your house, and that Uncle Bob's going to drink too much, and you're going to have to deal with Uncle Bob, and your sister may show up with the fifth guy of the week that she's dating, and no one likes her, and Dad's going to start a fight with his sister, and you start creating all this negative. You're going to walk into that family event with your automatic defense on, with a bad attitude, ready to start putting out fires and, throwing punches and taking names later, but that's what happens, I think, when we're in the workplace as well.
Mhm.
We're so compounded when we go in and we know that, Sue over here at the customer service desk is so rude on a daily, but for some reason she doesn't lose her job, but yet they keep, this, they keep Sue, but they let go of the really nice guy on the third floor in that department. And I don't understand it. And so you walk into work with this horrible mentality and this attitude right off of the bat, and it ruins what you have to contribute to that organization. Or we do it in our own businesses. We're expecting the worst. If you don't have a customer walk in the first 2 hours that you're open, you're saying this is already going to be the worst day ever. Right off the bat, it's 10 a.m. and no one's walked in here to buy, anything from me. This is going to be the worst day ever. Well, guess what? It will be. It is going to
Mhm.
be the worst day ever because you have just manifested that into your life. You have prophesied it. You have decided it. Therefore, it will be, because Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So
Amen.
whatever you're thinking at that moment, yes, if that's what you believe, if you're walking into a lunch with your sister and it's not going to go well, it's probably not, because you've already decided that it's not.
If you have that family member, right? If you have that relationship, work or family, and it is a challenge, what is the one thing that you could do differently to show up to add value to them? If you
Hmm.
think about them first instead of how you're going to feel, and you bring
Mhm.
all this baggage and all these memories, we all have those people in our life. And if you don't, there's going to be one that shows up because that's just how it is. But you
Right.
really need to just really strategize, right? Intentionality, chapter 1, 15 laws of growth. Intentionality is how you're showing up because of how you were designed. So
Right.
what is that's your core belief, but those things have all been influenced in your life. What you believe about yourself is because of your environment. So
Mm.
you have to really start taking it apart of how were you designed? Who were you influenced by? Who are your mentors? Who's your inner circle that you have to trust? And sometimes, Sherry, this is the tough part. Sometimes you got to get rid of people in your life.
Yes.
Sometimes there are not people in your life that are supporting you for what you're gifted for. And because they're jealous, they're boastful, they are, you know, um, just going to tear you down behind your
Right.
back no matter what. So you really have to intentionally choose an inner circle. I call them the personal board of directors, right? To keep you accountable to say, hey, am I growing? Am I adding value? Am I able to reach my potential in my life? And if I can't, maybe there's people that are holding me back. And you know what? They
Mm.
may be really close to you. That's the really tough part is
Right.
they may be people that you deal with every day in your circle. And you may just have to say, I really can't give you any more time.
Right.
And that's a
Right.
tough call.
Right. It is a tough call, but I believe in loving people from a distance. And I also believe that you can limit that time. You can be around people that should not be in that core five group, but you can still love them and help them and support them from a bigger distance at that
Mhm.
point, not have them as close to you, because you're seeing that they're starting to affect you. And it makes perfect sense, because when you can do exactly what you said and find out who you are and what your why is, all of a sudden everything around you, your circumstances, don't change you. It doesn't matter who you're around, or what's going on around you. The circumstances of, maybe you've lost your business, or your husband walked out the door, or you had a big fight with him, or whatever it is. That circumstance is not going to change that core. It may change a little bit of you for a while, but it'll never change your core, because you've already found out what that is and who you are. Makes perfect
Mhm.
sense to me. Perfect sense.
And you condition yourself, right? And when you
Right.
understand that, you begin to condition yourself so all the things that are because things are going to happen, right?
Right.
That's life. And so it's never going to be just all roses and sunflowers and
Right.
even though we want to think that way, we can have that attitude that no
Right.
matter what happens to us, it's you can do all things through God who strengthens you.
Right.
And so go to Philippians, right? Because it's so important. If you understand that from your core, you're really believe, if you're faith-based like I am, and I know like you are, Sherry, and
Yeah.
I think it's so important, people that have not had that relationship with God, with a God, to give them that confidence to say there is something bigger than myself. I have this humility because I know that I was designed for a purpose for someone greater than me. And it's not just
Mm,
about me, right? It's not about
right.
me, it's about something greater. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out is I know as a contributor in the world, how I show up and add value is so important in the ways that I do it with intentionality.
I could talk to you all day. You know that, right? Because you fill me
I
up.
know.
But I have to let you go so I can go download the 15
I know.
laws of growth.
Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, yes. Do that.
I have 4 books already in my queue because I'm just finishing the book that Terry Saville Foy wrote on declutter. She talks about decluttering, not, and I'm very organized, so I'm not a hoarder and I don't clutter a lot, but if you looked at my desk drawer, she would call me a liar. So it's those things where she talks about the first thing that you should do in the morning is making your bed. And I was guilty for that for so long because I thought, what's the point? I'm just going to get back in it, right? Until she interviewed someone in the military and they said, in the military, the first thing they do is make their bed. And it's not because we want them to get up and obey orders. It's because we know that when you make your bed, you've already accomplished the first thing of that day. You've
Exactly.
already accomplished something. The minute you wake up, you've accomplished that. And then you come back at the end of the day, or maybe you're home all day and you see that bed over and over made, and it just makes you feel good. So when I'm here and I'm recording and I take a break and go fix coffee or run to the kitchen and I can look over there through the master and see my bed is made, I just feel so much better. Like I'm like, oh yeah, my bed is made. I'm rocking it today, buddy.
Think if you went to a hotel room and you walked in and the bed wasn't made, how would you feel? Right?
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that is such a great analogy, right? And how good does that feel when you go back to the hotel room and you're like, the bed is made, even though you're going to get back in it. It's something with your mind, right? It's just that positive and it's that organization feeling that just empowers you. So yeah,
It
I
is.
can talk to you all day, but I got to download this book. So I'm going to have to let you go. I want you to tell everybody what you're doing today and where people can reach out to you and they can find you.
Oh gosh, what I'm doing today, this is amazing journey. So my platform is Everyday Leaders. So you can find me on Google, you can find me on my website, everydayleaders.com. I have the Everyday Leaders 50 and 50 podcast. My YouTube page is under my name, Melahni Ake, Melahniake. And that's growing. We're doing a bunch of live stuff. We have an Airstream that we're taking out for sponsored events, for interviews and trainings and all kinds of amazing things. And then I have these incredible training workshops every single week, training on the why, finding your why, and also the 15 laws of growth for everyday leaders. So there's amazing things. I love to interview guests that have incredible stories of challenging lives, developing their own personal beliefs. And because I believe developing yourself as an everyday leader is a choice that you make day every
Right,
day. And so everybody can do this, right?
right,
Everybody. And so I
right.
really appreciate you. This has been so awesome to reconnect with you.
I know it's so good. And, I knew that I was going to learn something from you, but I didn't know I was going to be writing all of these notes and learning all of these things. So I have my notepad. I hope everyone has been able to take out their notepads, and I am going to go back and study the Proverbs, like you said.
Oh, I love that. And I love your show. I have been the biggest fan, and thinking about our journey and how we connected. And I think every single person in your life is supposed to be on your journey. And so pay attention to
Yes.
that because you can learn from each other and you can carry each other through your lifetime. And so I just really want to encourage people. Just don't be afraid, right? If you're afraid of people around you, just find a way to add value to them
Right.
because look at what
Right.
we've done with each other. And this is really, really amazing. And I'm so
It
proud of
is.
you.
I always tell people, you know what? And I tell my son this. I said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Yeah, I preach this to my family as well as my girlfriends. They're probably tired of listening to me, but that my podcast listeners listen to me. So I'm telling you to move, change rooms, be in a room where you feel like an idiot. That's where you're going to grow. That's where you're going to grow. Thank you so much, Melanie.
Thank you, Sherry. Have a great rest of 2020.
Thank you for tuning in all the way through Real Girl Talk. Make sure you subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you happen to have iTunes, would you do me a huge favor and leave us a rating and review of the show? That's the way that we get this message out to more and more people around the world. And giving us a review and rating, something good is going to come back your way. Plus, I know you're the type of person that wants others to live their best life. So can you copy this link, share it to your friends, share it on social media? Remember, people need to be inspired. They need to have tips. They need to have business ideas more than ever right now. And I know that you can help me on this mission. Thank you again so much. If you want to be a supporter of the show, go back to realgirltalkpodcast.com, click Be a Supporter. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart for being a part of Real Girl Talk Podcast. And until next week, keep your encouragement tank full, your faith in God, and create your beautiful life.